All right, we want to talk about folds and rolls. This is more of an illustration rather than a really photorealistic drawing style, but it will be helpful for your drawing development. This is a great place to start. So let's look at corners. We have a rectangle here. I'm going to fold the corner, and what you'll notice is that the line is going to change. Even though you know that this is a rectangle, when it changes direction, it's going to turn into a triangle. So we want to be able to make sure that we're aware of that. So let's go ahead, label your paper. This is number 1. We're going to look at corners. So go ahead and basically draw a square, except that when you come to the corner here, just draw it diagonally and then draw in a triangle. Now your triangle does not need to actually have a right angle on every, it can, but it doesn't have to. Sometimes things get folded kind of funky. So even though this is definitely a triangle, it isn't completely straight here. It's a little bit at an angle. Then the next thing we want to look at is the cast shadow. And this cast shadow, do you notice how the point is right about here? That vertex is right here. But down this line right along here, that's this line right along here. The cast shadow starts off of the point. It's not on the point, it's off. And then it goes ahead and it goes back. There's my cast shadow. Okay. You can find that cast shadows will do, it just depends on where the lighting's coming from, right? So you change the lighting and the cast shadow will change, but actually, and it can even look different. Look, that looks like a triangular cast shadow. It just depends on the angle. So, hey, look, it's even like a boomerang kind of a thing. So it just depends on where the light source is. This is just a quick way to symbolize it, but that's also what was happening. Now I have 2 lights. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm having a hard time seeing if I can. Yeah, I guess you can see it. There's a dark one and a lesser one. I'm only choosing to do the dark one, but there are 2 cast shadows in this particular drawing because I have 2 light sources because I've been trying to make this thing bright enough for you to see. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's look at directional shift. I have here a strip of paper, and we're going to make a directional shift on it. If you need to, just stop the video and write your note and then go ahead. Okay, so here I have this strip of paper, and I'm going to make a directional shift with it. It was going one direction, and now it's going another. And again, I'll kind of fold it. It's going to do the same thing. Only I want to talk to you a little bit about when a directional shift occurs, okay? So let's go ahead and just draw this rectangle. Can you see how it's making a nice little rectangle right here? We're going to ignore this part for just a second. So we'll draw a rectangle. And then we're going to draw our triangle edge, our diagonal edge now. But before we do that, pay attention to this. You have to kind of guesstimate this. The paper comes under that fold and ends about here, right? And we get to see where it changes direction. So as we draw this edge, we have to draw just as far down as we think it will meet. If we go any higher, it's going to make the paper look long and funky on this end. Let me draw it for you. I'll make the mistake first, okay? This is something a lot of people will do. They'll draw this part. They'll make it, this is kind of the width, the standard width. They'll go ahead and they'll make the shift, and then when they go down, they'll do that little number. And that, you know, it's really thin here because they didn't come across and meet the vertex over here, okay? So try to make sure you're paying attention to, the logic of it, which is it does come under. Think about what's going on. And then, of course, if you had the paper, you draw what you see, not what you know. But we do know that it goes under. So just pay attention to that as you go. And go ahead and bring it down. And then it will look about the same proportional width here as it does here, okay? Now, also, I'm going to look at that cast shadow. Let's see what we can see. Does it do anything much? Not a lot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the one on the outside of it. I think it's interesting. I like it. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, it changed because it tilted. I'm going to push it back up because This is actually a little bit of a still life. That just means that I have something I'm looking at and I'm drawing what I see. That's a still life. It's life, real life, but it's still. Okay? Well, you can see that sometimes still lives move and they're not still anymore. And when they move, things change. It's very frustrating. If you ever take a college art course and they'll have the still life for everybody, they'll have maybe 5 or 6 things that you're supposed to draw, and then one student will move something over. It's just going to freak you out because it moved on you. So yeah, don't ever. That's a no-no. Don't move still lives on people if you're not the only one drawing the item. Keep it still. All right, let's look at how these could translate into something not really paper, like a leaf. So I'm going to draw the stem, and then I'm going to draw my leaf. And again, this is kind of cartoony, I admit, but I'm going to blunt that edge. There's my fold, a directional shift, and I'm going to tuck up under the leaf. The leaf got bent. And then I have my drawing and my little shadow under there, and there's my leaf. Okay, so you can think in terms of other things. It doesn't have to just be a piece of paper. It can be organic things too. All right, let's look at rolls. Okay, I'm going to look at a rolled piece of paper. These are really nice for when, boy, isn't that cash shadow interesting? It's kind of fun. When you want to make a banner, like happy birthday, and you're writing it and you want to draw a nice little banner. But I want to talk about rolled paper because it does lots of interesting things to it. So I'm going to lay it down on the paper. See if I can get it the way I want it. Get a little more in there. I'm going to have to tilt it. Okay, so I think you can see how it's just it kind of curls around. So I'm going to make a curl. I'm starting with that edge. Now, I am going to look at paper will actually turn, when it curls, it will turn into a point. It's thick. Can you see how you can see the side of the paper here and you can see the side on the inside? But when it makes that twist, at the point it twists, it's going to make actually more of just an edge. So it will twist in here. You'll see the paper down in here. But when it has a directional shift, that instead of folding, it's actually going to make a point. And then it will come out here. So it will look like it almost just makes an X. Okay, and then we'll make a more, and I'm just going to end it because I'm not going to draw that bent part. All right, and then I can go ahead and draw, you've got the paper on the inside, and it's making that shift, and it will just end. So whenever it shifts direction, it depends on the angle, but it can actually make just this X area, or it can even make a little of a beefy slide there where you see some of the under, you see some of the over a little bit, okay? Let's try an actual scroll. So try that out. This is kind of like a ribbon, really more than a banner, I'm sorry. It kind of got away from me. Let's try this too. Here, let's make an edge, make a wavy line. And then let's just make it twist again and again, okay? So we're going to come to the point, and then we're going to have it go on the other side. And then I'm going to come to the point where the directional changes happen, the directional shifts. Make a point and come back out on the other side. That is a directional shift, and it will help it look, especially when you shade it. I'm going to get it dark under here a little bit. And it's going to look, hopefully, like that's the underside a little bit, and this is the over. You can kind of shade on the bottom right there. And it will look like a twist. You can shade on the underside. And it will look like it shifted. Okay, let's look at a roll going this way. Let's spiral on the inside. Just make a spiral. And we're going to just go straight. Ooh, hey. Just go straight down. So it's kind of curling in. Dark on this side. Straight down. I'm going to go on these outer edges. And then I'm going to follow and think about directional shifts. So as I come to, I'm going up and over, and now I'm going under. There's a directional shift, so now I'm going to bring that line down. I'm going to go around, and all of a sudden it's shifting. That's where I'm going to go down. I'm going to go around, and now it's going, the line's going under. Make the line go down. Around, and then down. And now I have this scrolled piece of paper. And you can go ahead and decide where the light source is. Let's pretend my light source is over here. So the shadow is going to come this way. This side of the rolls will be darker. Okay, so you can keep, we can keep thinking about making those decisions with the lighting, but anyway, yeah, it's just kind of fun. All right, there we go. There's rolls. Let's look at more things with banners a second. Let's try kind of a flag banner. Like that, okay? When you have this kind of a banner where it's folded, there's a bit of a zigzag edge that happens. There's a few ways you can do this. I like to think of each as more of like a stair. So I'm going to go ahead and make the stair, the whole stair that's been folded. Just like we had the cast shadow here, you're going to, in a sense, echo this footprint here. And then I'm going to take this corner and attach it to that corner. So it's going to zigzag. Now you could, if you wanted to, go ahead and zigzag. There's just two ways to do it. You can make that footprint first and then connect it, or you can kind of make it a continuous line like we did over here or in here, where you go zig and then see how I'm stepping down like that. Then you just have to remember to go up and up. Like that. Like that. So you can zig the whole thing, go zigzag, zigzag, like kind of a lightning bolt, and then fill it in. I tend to get confused with that. So let me go on the other side. I tend to like to make the whole piece, and it's an offset, and then I connect it. And then I make the whole piece, and then I connect it. That's just how I think, but you might actually like it better where you throw in the zigzags and then think your way out of that. I'm just not that good. Okay, so that's a nice way to make a banner. Now let's talk about point of pulls. These are my labels, by the way. The way I think of things as I draw. I have to remember when I'm drawing any kind of fabric, if it's attached to something, there's going to be a point at which it gets pulled. So let's do just like a piece of fabric pinned in 2 points. Now let's say that piece of fabric is a rectangle, and I have decided to pin both of these pieces on my 2 dots, okay? It's gonna sag, right? You're gonna pin it like that, and then the folds are gonna happen. So let's talk about how to make those folds. So it's gonna kind of sag here, because it's not a piece of paper. And the very center of it will also sag. Now I'm gonna keep this kind of light. Don't carve into your paper. And it's gonna pull up to your nail or something. I've got those corners. They're going to kind of dress themselves. They're going to kind of come out, and then they'll kind of come like that. Now you're going to make shadow lines, and the shadow lines are a whole lot like Nike swoops. So I'm going to make a little bit of a thin shadow here, and then I have another swoop coming in, and I'm making sure it kind of echoes the way that it curves. really kind of light. Shade it in. And then up at the top, another kind of Nike swoop that another Nike swoop. And again, this is a little bit cartoony, but if you can kind of see how fabric will do this, it has this kind of action going back and forth like that. And I can have a little bit more in there, but in general, it will do this. It will also make these, sometimes these little light triangles of shading in there. Okay, so it has that point of pull. There's another way. Let's say that I have the same item, but now I'm hanging it at a diagonal. It will flail out a little bit, kind of like the top of a Christmas tree. And we're going to go ahead and then just kind of go in and out and in and out till it goes to the point down there. Like that. And we're going to use it, or we're going to treat it much kind of like we did with some of the folds. So I'm going to bring that back up from the edges here. Those edges. And then you can kind of shade depending on where you think the light source is coming from. If I think it's coming in that direction, really light. Probably pretty dark there, like that. And now I have a hanging, a towel on a hook, or maybe even something on someone's dress, depending on how it would hang. Okay, let's look at a flag. Flags are different. They have 2 points of pull because they're clipped on one point and then they're clipped at another point along that flagpole. Okay, I'm gonna draw those really lightly. And for some reason, just the way it will hang, there's a few ways that it will hang. One, it will kind of hang sometimes kind of like a triangle like this that kind of sails out, okay? And then the next shape will come out kind of in these funky little sections like that. And then the stripes are great. The American flag's really nice because it's got these very clear directional stripes, so they help. Any of these little shape lines that you get wrong can kind of actually go away nicely with, I'll make that dark, with the directions of the stripes. So the change of the striping helps the flag come together a little bit better. Dun, dun, dun. Or it'll make this shape, it may not start with this triangle shape, it might start with this kind of funky shape where it almost looks like a triangle, but it has a square tip to it. And it will just hang like that. And then you'll see just a little bit of the blue. So it kind of looks like the flag we have, only that it curves. Don't make it, it's not like an actual, it won't hang straight like that. It will kind of have this sad looking top to it that kind of curls, and then they'll come around. It can do that little number, and then the flagpole's coming out. And then another one sometimes it will do is the complete flop, where you see the pull on one side and you're going to see the kind of almost the back end of it. You'll see a triangle kind of hang out here. It's got a few loose stripes. And then you'll see this, again, this kind of long, elongated triangle, but it's got a square tip, this kind of, almost like a necktie, right? Kind of like that. And then you'll see some of the stripes coming like that. The best thing you can do ever And there's that dark piece, the blue, the stars. The best thing you can do is look at a photo of it and break it down into these basic shapes first and then throw in your stripes. And look, just really look at it. Don't just try to guess. When we try to guess flags, what we always wind up with is, you know, hurricane force winds, and this thing looks like, I don't know about you, but whenever I ever see a flag, it never looks like that. Okay, it's just so propped and so, you know, rectangular. It's, the wind is not, even if the wind is flapping, there's going to be variances on that edge. It's going to be, you know, rolling in the wind, and some of the stripes are going to be also echoing that roll. So most flags look a whole lot like that. So really make sure you look at the picture, notice what the shape is doing, and then go ahead and throw in those stripes. And the stripes will really help your shape go together. Okay, that's what I've got for you. This is a makeup lesson for what we did in class.